At a remote, sun-baked truck stop on the outskirts of nowhere, a veteran black trucker and his teenage son paused for a brief refuel. Their rig was packed with crucial supplies, their minds focused on the long road ahead. But the quiet morning was abruptly shattered as a gang of bikers stormed into the lot, the leather-clad figures exuding menace. The gang's leader, itching to assert dominance, zeroed in on the boy, issuing a veiled threat before slashing one of the truck's tires. Unfazed, the father stepped forward, his presence calm yet commanding. What the bikers failed to realize was that this wasn't just any trucker. It was a man forged in battle, a former soldier who had lost too much to let fear dictate his actions. And today, he was ready to stand his ground. The first golden rays of sunlight stretched over Iron Haven truck stop, bathing the rows of parked rigs in hues of amber and gold. The air thrummed with the steady hum of diesel engines revving up, blending with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting from Mary's grill. Another day on the road had begun. Malcolm Harris, a seasoned driver with years of experience carved into his every movement, meticulously inspected his Freightliner Cascadia. At 47, his sharp eyes and steady hands spoke of decades spent navigating the vast highways of America. Beside him, his 19-year-old son, Andre, a wiry, sharp-witted young man with an easy grin, crouched near the tires, double-checking the pressure. Andre had inherited his father's love for the open road and was eager to follow in his footsteps as a trucker. "Did you check the brake lines?" Malcolm asked, his voice steady but firm. "On it, Dad," Andre replied, nodding as he inspected the undercarriage. Their rig was loaded with medical supplies bound for Baton Rouge, a shipment Malcolm knew was critical given the recent shortages. Iron Haven wasn't just a pit stop. It was a sanctuary for truckers on grueling long hauls. Drivers gathered at Mary's Grill for hot meals and conversation, a brotherhood forged through endless miles and shared hardships. But an unspoken tension had been growing, a storm Malcolm had tried to ignore. The low, guttural growl of motorcycles shattered the peaceful morning. A pack of riders, clad in black leather adorned with the snarling emblem of the Shadow Wolves MC, rumbled into the lot, their presence an unspoken threat. At the head of the group was Victor Viper Cruz, towering, menacing figure with a cruel smirk and a reputation built on violence. Unaware of the approaching danger, Andre continued his work, oblivious to the storm about to break. As Malcolm refueled the truck, the bikers dismounted, their boots striking the pavement with deliberate weight. Viper strode forward, his gaze sweeping over the rig before locking onto Andre. "Nice truck," he sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. "You know, rigs like this can run into accidents if they're not properly protected." Andre stiffened, sensing the implied threat, keeping his voice steady. He shot back, "We don't need your protection." Viper's smirk widened. "Feisty, huh? Maybe I ought to teach you some respect." He stepped closer, but before he could act, Malcolm appeared, placing a firm hand on Andre's shoulder. "That's enough," Malcolm said evenly, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. Viper's gaze shifted to Malcolm, his sneer curling into something colder. "Well, look who finally decided to step in. Just pay the fee, old man, and we'll leave your little operation alone." Malcolm held Viper's stare without blinking. "I'm not giving you a dime. Now leave." The tension in the air crackled like static before a storm. Viper's smirk faded, his expression darkening. With a snap of his fingers, one of the bikers kicked over a tool chest, sending its contents clattering across the pavement. Another biker drew a knife and, with slow, deliberate intent, slashed one of the truck's tires. The sharp hiss of escaping air filled the silence that followed. "Consider this a warning," Viper muttered before turning to his gang. "We'll be back." As the Shadow Wolves roared out of the lot, the atmosphere at Iron Haven shifted. Drivers who had watched from a distance exchanged uneasy glances. Inside Mary's Grill, conversations hushed as word spread. Mary, the diner's owner and a motherly figure to the truckers, approached Malcolm and Andre as they picked up the scattered tools. "They've been at it for weeks," she said grimly, "demanding money from anyone who stops here." Malcolm wiped his hands on a rag, his expression unreadable. Bullies like them only have power if we let them. Andre looked at his father, admiration and concern flickering in his eyes. What do we do now, Dad? Malcolm straightened, his jaw set with quiet determination. We don't back down. Andre nodded, his resolve hardening. Around them, the truck stop community stirred. Fear lingered, but Malcolm's defiance sparked something else, hope. As they worked together to replace the damaged tire, Malcolm's mind raced. He had faced threats before, on the road, in war zones and life. But this was different. This wasn't just about protecting himself or his son. This was about standing up for a community that had lost its voice. The Shadow Wolves had underestimated the wrong man. They thought Malcolm Harris was just another trucker, another easy target. What they failed to realize was that he had endured far worse and wasn't about to be pushed around. As the sun climbed higher, Malcolm knew one thing for certain. The fight for Iron Haven was only beginning. Inside the cab of Malcolm's Freightliner, memories were etched into every inch. It wasn't just a truck. It was a sanctuary, a second home. As Andre rummaged through the glove compartment for a spare logbook, his fingers brushed against something unexpected. An old, weathered photo album. What's this? Andre asked, pulling it out and flipping through the pages. The images told a story he had never fully known. A younger Malcolm, clad in military fatigues, stood beside fellow soldiers under the relentless sun of Iraq's desert. Medals, a certificate of commendation, and a picture of Malcolm with Andre's late mother were nestled between the pages. You never told me you were in the military, Andre said, awe in his voice. Malcolm exhaled, taking a seat beside his son. Not much to tell. I was a combat medic, served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Saw things I'd rather forget. Why'd you leave? Andre pressed, his curiosity growing. Malcolm's gaze softened. Your mom got sick. I had to choose, stay overseas or come home and be the father you needed. So I came back. Andre nodded, seeing his father in a new light. The quiet resilience Malcolm carried now made sense. It was forged in the fire of battle, where life and death walked hand in hand. After the run-in with the Shadow Wolves, Malcolm knew they couldn't stand alone. Help wasn't going to come to them. They had to seek it out. Their first stop was another truck stop a few miles down the road, where Marcus, Big Mac, Johnson was parked. A burly man with a deep, rumbling laugh and a face weathered by time. Marcus was tinkering with his rig when Malcolm approached. Malcolm Harris. Marcus greeted, wiping grease from his hands. Been a long time. Too long, Malcolm replied. I need your help. As Malcolm laid out the situation, Marcus's expression darkened. He hesitated, shaking his head. I've fought too many battles, Malcolm. I just want peace. Andre stepped forward, his voice filled with urgency. Please, Mr. Johnson, my dad's trying to protect this community. We can't do it alone. You serve together, right? Doesn't that mean something? Marcus sighed. The fire in Andre's eyes reminded him of a younger version of himself. Finally, he nodded. All right, but this better not turn into a suicide mission. The next stop, the office of Sheriff Dion Parker. Sheriff Dion Parker, a middle-aged man with a no-nonsense demeanor, listened intently as Malcolm laid out the situation. He sighed, rubbing his temple. The Shadow Wolves have been a problem for months, Parker admitted. But without solid evidence, my hands are tied. Then we'll get you the evidence, Malcolm promised. But when we do, we need you to act. Parker nodded. You have my word. But if this escalates, I can't promise we'll get there in time to save everyone. Back at Iron Haven, Malcolm and Marcus mapped out defensive strategies, discussing roadblocks and countermeasures. Andre, however, had a different idea. You know, I can help in another way, he said, opening his laptop. Malcolm shot him a skeptical look. What are you talking about? Andre grinned. I picked up some coding and cybersecurity in high school. If the Shadow Wolves are careless enough to leave a digital trail, I can find it. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You're telling me you can hack them? Nothing fancy, Andre admitted. but I can track their communications, maybe even access their surveillance footage. Malcolm hesitated, his protective instincts flaring. This is dangerous, Andre. If they find out. They won't, Andre cut in confidently. And we don't have a choice. You said it yourself, Dad. We have to fight smart. Reluctantly, Malcolm agreed. Over the next few hours, Andre plunged into the digital battlefield, using simple but effective tools to infiltrate the Shadow Wolves network. What he uncovered was chilling. Messages coordinating extortion, video footage of their violent attacks, and a schedule for an imminent raid on a nearby truck stop. He shared the intel with Malcolm, Marcus, and Sheriff Parker, who immediately began assembling a case. Armed with proof, Malcolm and Marcus rallied the truckers of Iron Haven. They fortified the truck stop, parking rigs in strategic formations and constructing makeshift barriers. Meanwhile, Andre kept watch on the Shadow Wolves' communications. They've got a warehouse nearby, he reported. Looks like their base of operations. If we hit it, we can throw them off balance. Malcolm nodded. We split their attention, but we need to be ready when they come back here. As night fell over Iron Haven, tension crackled in the air. The truck stop had become a fortress, its people united in defiance. For the first time in weeks, the drivers didn't just feel like targets. They felt like a force ready to fight back. At dawn, an eerie stillness settled over Iron Haven, broken only by the low hum of idling engines. Malcolm stood near the barricade, his Freightliner Cascadia positioned like a sentinel in the coming storm. Standing at the defensive line, Marcus, Big Mac Johnson fine-tuned his makeshift radio, his expression grim as he scanned the horizon. They're coming, he muttered, his deep voice tight with tension. Andre sprinted up, laptop in hand, eyes wide. Dad, I intercepted some chatter. Viper's bringing reinforcements. They'll be here in less than an hour. Malcolm exchanged a knowing look with Marcus. Then let's get ready. The truckers, now a hardened group of over a dozen, moved with practiced efficiency. They reinforced barricades with heavy rigs, took up defensive positions, and armed themselves with whatever was available: chains, tire irons, even crowbars. In the cab of his father's truck, Andre transformed it into a command center, his laptop flickering with data as he tapped into the Shadow Wolves surveillance system, tracking their every move in real time. The first distant growl of motorcycle engines shattered the morning stillness, growing louder with every passing second. At the head of the convoy, Viper Cruz rode with his signature smirk, his posture oozing confidence. Behind him, nearly 30 Shadow Wolves thundered down the highway, their presence a looming storm. This is it, Malcolm murmured, gripping the edge of the barricade. The bikers dismounted, boots thudding onto the pavement in unison. Viper strolled toward the blockade, flanked by 2 lieutenants, his gaze sweeping over the makeshift defenses with smug amusement. This is your stand, he scoffed. Rigs and wrenches? Cute, but not enough. We're not moving, Malcolm stated firmly, stepping forward, his tone unwavering. Viper's smirk disappeared, replaced by a hardened glare. Fine, tear it down. Like a wave crashing against stone, the Shadow Wolves surged forward, swinging crowbars and chains, slamming against the truck barricades. The truckers fought back with fierce resolve, wielding tools with the strength of men who had spent their lives hauling America's weight. Marcus barked orders like a battlefield general, directing rigs into tighter formations to block off access to Mary's Grill, where noncombatants had taken shelter. Malcolm held his ground, dodging a wild swing and countering with a precise strike from a tire iron, sending his attacker sprawling. He moved with calculated precision, his military training guiding every motion, efficient, controlled, non-lethal but decisive. Inside the cab, Andre's fingers danced across the keyboard, breaking deeper into the Shadow Wolves network. Come on, he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Just need a little more time. The battle raged on, both sides taking hits. A trucker staggered back, clutching his shoulder from a brutal strike. A young Shadow Wolves recruit, barely out of his teens, hesitated, the chaos around him unraveling his bravado. The teen staggered away from the melee, blood dripping from a fresh gash on his forehead. Malcolm surged through the chaos, his combat medic instincts taking over as he reached the wounded trucker. "Stay with me," he urged, quickly fashioning a makeshift sling to stabilize the injured arm. Meanwhile, Viper's frustration boiled over. "Push through. Break them," he bellowed, his voice raw with anger. Then, Andre's voice crackled over the radio. "Dad, I got them, all of it. The extortion records, the warehouse raids, even their dirty deal with Nova Med. I'm sending it to Sheriff Parker now." "Good," Malcolm panted, narrowly dodging a crowbar swung at his head. "We just need to hold a little longer." Suddenly, the wail of police sirens sliced through the air, red and blue lights flashing against the morning haze. "Cops!" someone from the Shadow Wolves shouted. The gang hesitated, their ironclad confidence cracking. The sirens grew deafening, and within moments, multiple police cruisers skidded into the lot. Officers emerged with weapons drawn, their voices cutting through the tension. "This is the police. Drop your weapons and step away from the barricade." Sheriff Parker's voice boomed from a megaphone. Viper's smirk vanished. His eyes darted between his gang and the approaching officers, calculating his next move. He had lost control. "Fall back," he barked. Panic rippled through the gang. Some of the younger recruits dropped their weapons and raised their hands, unwilling to risk further bloodshed. Others scrambled onto their bikes, engines roaring as they fled under Viper's command. As the dust settled, Malcolm turned to check on his son. Andre emerged from the cab, face pale but triumphant. "Sheriff's got everything," he said breathlessly. "I sent him the files, and I leaked part of it online. The whole world's gonna know what they've done." The police moved swiftly, securing the area, taking statements from truckers, and rounding up the Shadow Wolves who had surrendered. Sheriff Parker approached Malcolm and Andre, nodding in approval. "You did good," he said. "This evidence will take them down for good. And with what you leaked, the public's already on our side." Andre grinned despite the exhaustion settling over him. Guess they weren't as untouchable as they thought. Malcolm placed a steady hand on his son's shoulder, pride gleaming in his eyes. "We're not done yet, but this is a damn good start." As the last of the Shadow Wolves were loaded into police cruisers, the truckers at Iron Haven began dismantling the barricades. The air shifted from tense to hopeful. They were battered, bruised, but they had stood their ground. The battle was over, but the fight for justice had only just begun. The fallout was instant. Andre's leaked evidence spread like wildfire, exposing the Shadow Wolves' extortion, brutality, and deep ties to Nova Med. Local news picked it up first, then national networks followed. Within hours, the gang that once ruled by fear was now the most wanted group in the country. In a dimly lit hideout, Victor Viper Cruz sat hunched over a table, his fists clenched. "Who the hell leaked this?" he snarled, slamming a fist down. Across the room, Jason, his younger brother, leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Maybe instead of throwing tantrums, you should face the truth," he snapped. "You dragged us into this mess. Now we're paying for it." The air in the room thickened. The usual blind loyalty was cracking. Viper's glare darkened. "Shut your damn mouth." His voice wavered with frustration. "We can fix this." Jason scoffed. "You still don't get it, do you? We were never in control. Nova Med used us. Now they're cutting us loose." He turned for the door. "I'm done." A heavy silence followed as Jason walked out. The once mighty Shadow Wolves were falling apart. Meanwhile, Sheriff Dion Parker gathered with FBI agents, reviewing the damning evidence Andre had uncovered. The footage was undeniable: beatings, money transfers, encrypted orders for eliminations. "This isn't just a gang," Parker told his team. "This is a criminal empire. We take down the wolves. We cripple Nova Med." By midday, a task force was assembled, local deputies, state police, and FBI agents armed and ready. Their target, the Shadow Wolves' stronghold, a fortified warehouse on the outskirts of town. As their convoy rumbled closer, Parker's radio crackled. "Sheriff," Andre's voice was sharp. "I intercepted their comms. Some of them are already running, but Nova Med's cleaning house. If you don't move now, they'll vanish." Parker didn't hesitate. He turned to his team. "We move now." Engines roared as armored trucks surrounded the compound. Officers poured out, weapons raised. The final battle had begun. The assault was swift and overwhelming. Armed officers stormed the warehouse, shields raised, battering rams smashing through reinforced doors. Inside, chaos erupted. The Shadow Wolves, already fractured by betrayal and fear, barely mounted a defense. Tear gas thickened the air as tactical teams swept through, subduing gang members, confiscating weapons, and securing control. In a dimly lit office, Viper clutched his phone, barking orders into the void. "Get me out of here," he screamed. But there was no escape. The door burst open, officers swarming in. He fought, desperate, furious. But within seconds, they had him pinned and cuffed. The once feared leader of the Shadow Wolves was dragged away, his reign reduced to nothing. Meanwhile, Novamed's boardroom spiraled into panic. The company, once untouchable, was now at the center of a national scandal. Executives scrambled to erase evidence, but Andre was already inside their system. From a secure location, his fingers flew over the keyboard, cracking firewalls, unearthing damning secrets, emails, financial ledgers, contracts, all linking Novamed to not just the Shadow Wolves, but criminal enterprises nationwide. "This is the smoking gun," Andre muttered, sending the files to Sheriff Parker and the FBI. They weren't just enabling crime. They were orchestrating it. Within hours, FBI agents raided Novamed's headquarters in New Orleans. Executives were yanked from their desks, some still clutching briefcases as they were cuffed. At the center of it all, CEO Charles Greer, his usual smug demeanor replaced by sheer panic, was led out in front of blazing cameras. The footage spread instantly. The nation watched as Novamed, a pharmaceutical giant, collapsed overnight. Protests erupted outside their offices, furious citizens demanding justice. Stock prices plummeted, shareholders fled, and the company's name became synonymous with corruption. Back in Iron Haven, the truck stop erupted with cheers. Inside Mary's Grill, drivers and families huddled around TVs, watching the fall of Novamed. The once shadowed town now stood victorious. Sheriff Parker stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "We didn't just take down a gang," he said. "We exposed corruption at the highest level, and we did it together." Andre stood beside his father, overwhelmed by the truckers clapping him on the back, offering thanks. Marcus, Big Mac Johnson chuckled, clapping a heavy hand on Andre's shoulder. "Kid, you ever think about working for the FBI?" Andre grinned. "One step at a time, but I'll do whatever it takes to keep this community safe." Malcolm placed a firm hand on his son's shoulder, pride shining in his eyes. "You already have, son." The next day, Malcolm, Andre, Marcus, and Sheriff Parker organized a town hall meeting. The battle was won, but the fight to rebuild was just beginning. In the wake of the Shadow Wolves' downfall, Iron Haven set its sights on something greater, lasting change. The truckers, led by Malcolm, Marcus, and Sheriff Parker, worked together to establish community security, improve communication among drivers, and provide support for young people like Jason, those who wanted to leave behind their troubled pasts. The gang was gone, Novamed's grip on the region was shattered, but the fight for justice had ignited a movement, a promise that no one would ever exploit their community again. The sun rose over Iron Haven, casting golden light over the once troubled truck stop. The air felt lighter, no longer heavy with fear, but filled with renewed purpose and unity. The empty lot, where the Shadow Wolves once gathered, stood as a silent reminder of what had been, and what would never be again. Jason Cruz sat on the hood of a truck, staring at that empty lot. The last few days had shaken him to his core. Everything he had believed in had crumbled, his brother's leadership, the gang's power, the lies they had been fed. He barely noticed Malcolm approaching until the older man's steady voice broke the silence. "You've got a chance now, Jason," Malcolm said. "Not everyone gets one after the choices you made. Don't waste it." Jason swallowed hard, then nodded. "I won't. I want to make things right, for myself and for everyone I hurt." With Sheriff Parker's help, Jason and several former Shadow Wolves were enrolled in a rehabilitation program. Community members like Marcus "Big Mac" Johnson stepped up to mentor them, teaching them real skills: welding, mechanics, logistics, anything that could lead to honest work. "We all make mistakes," Marcus told them, "but what matters is what you do to fix them." Meanwhile, Nova Med burned in the firestorm of its own corruption. CEO Charles Greer, along with several high-ranking executives, was charged with racketeering, conspiracy, and endangering public health. The financial records Andre had exposed, detailing orchestrated drug shortages, backroom deals, and organized crime connections, left the company defenseless. Courtrooms turned into battlegrounds, with former Nova Med employees turning whistleblower, exposing even deeper corruption. The public's outrage was relentless. At Mary's Grill, Malcolm, Andre, and Marcus watched the televised hearings, surrounded by truckers and community members. The small diner, once a place of fear, now buzzed with hope and pride. Marcus took a slow sip of coffee, shaking his head. "They thought they could control everything," he said, "but they didn't count on people like us fighting back." Andre smirked, leaning back in his chair. "They definitely didn't count on a kid with a laptop." The people of Iron Haven grew stronger than ever. Malcolm, Andre, and Marcus organized regular town hall meetings, inviting truckers and locals to discuss ways to maintain safety and unity. Mary's Grill became the heartbeat of the community, a symbol of resilience. And Mary herself, never one to back down, made sure her diner remained a safe haven for everyone who called Iron Haven home. Mary's Grill remained more than just a diner. It was a beacon of resilience, a place where stories of courage thrived. At a town meeting, Mary stood tall, her voice firm. "We proved we could stand up to anyone," she declared. "Now let's make sure we never lose that fire." Andre, now celebrated as a local hero, found himself at a crossroads. While he still dreamed of becoming a trucker like his father, he also enrolled in online courses, diving deeper into cybersecurity and digital defense. "Protecting this community isn't just about the road," Andre told Malcolm one evening. "It happens online too, and I want to be ready." Malcolm smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "Whatever you choose, son, you've already shown you're a fighter, just like your mom would have wanted." Months later, Malcolm and Andre stood on a grassy hill overlooking Iron Haven. Below them, the truck stop hummed with life, a stark contrast to the fear-ridden days of Shadow Wolves' reign. Trucks rolled in and out, drivers greeting each other with waves and laughter, free from the grip of fear. "You think they'll ever try to come back?" Andre asked, watching the horizon. Malcolm shook his head. "Not here. Not while this town stands together." For a moment, they stood in silence, taking in a town reborn, a community stronger than ever. Then Malcolm spoke. "This isn't just about Iron Haven." His voice was steady. "It's about proving that no one has to live in fear. People can fight back and win." Andre grinned. "You think they'll remember what we did here?" Malcolm placed a firm hand on his son's shoulder. "They'll remember, and if they don't, we'll remind them." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Iron Haven streets, Malcolm and Andre turned toward their truck. Their battle was over, but their journey continued on the open road, in the hearts of those they had inspired, and in the unshakable spirit of a town that refused to surrender. Because this story isn't just about one town. It's a testament to unity, courage, and the power of standing up for what's right. The highways stretch far, and challenges will always come. But as long as communities like Iron Haven stand together, the light of justice will never fade.